The Geometry of Lost Hearts. Chapter 1. The Sanctuary of Dust. The rain in London didn't just fall. It whispered against the glass of the small shop in Bloomsbury, a persistent, rhythmic tapping that sounded like 1,000 tiny fingers seeking entry. Inside, the air smelled of beeswax, aged paper, and the faint, metallic scent of silver polish. This was Elena's world, a sanctuary for the forgotten. Elena was a restorer of memories. She spent her days under the warm glow of a desk lamp, using tweezers and fine brushes to mend the frayed edges of history. To her, a torn photograph wasn't just damaged paper. It was a fracture in someone's timeline. She felt that if she could just align the edges perfectly, she could mend a piece of a stranger's broken heart. The bell above the door chimed, a silver melodic sound that cut through the silence. A man entered, bringing with him a gust of cold, damp air. He was tall, his coat drenched, his eyes a restless shade of slate gray that seemed to match the London sky. He held a small wooden box to his chest, as if it were made of thin ice. "I was told you were the only one who could open things without breaking them," he said, his voice a low baritone that vibrated in the small room. He placed the box on the velvet counter. It was mahogany, darkened by time, with a heavy brass lock. But it wasn't the lock that caught Elena's eye. It was a sliver of a black and white photograph caught in the hinge, a jagged piece of a woman's hand wearing a ring shaped like intertwining vines. "I am Julian," he said, his gaze fixed on her ink-stained fingers. "This box belonged to my grandfather. He died last month, and he took the secrets of this box to his grave. I feel like there's a ghost inside waiting to speak." Elena looked from the box to Julian. There was a frantic kind of curiosity in his eyes, a hunger for a truth he didn't yet know. "Leave it with me," she whispered. "The past doesn't like to be rushed. It speaks when it's ready." Chapter 2. The Midnight Ghost. That night, the storm intensified. Thunder rolled over the Thames, echoing through the empty streets. Elena sat at her workbench, the mahogany box bathed in the golden light of her lamp. She felt a strange electricity in the air. A sense of zahwat, that exhilarating thrill of being on the verge of a discovery. With the precision of a diamond cutter, she used a specialized steam tool to soften the ancient wood near the hinge. Slowly, agonizingly, the trapped photograph slid out. It was a woman with wild, dark hair standing on a bridge, her face half-turned, caught in a moment of pure, unadulterated laughter. On the back, written in a frantic, elegant hand, "Waterloo, 1944. If the bombs take me, find me in the silence between the notes." Elena's breath hitched. She finally picked the lock. The lid creaked open, revealing a treasure trove of the heart, a bundle of letters tied with a tattered blue silk ribbon, a dried rose that crumbled at the slightest touch, and a map of London with tiny red crosses marked over parks and hidden alleys. The next morning, when Julian arrived, the shop was filled with the scent of fresh coffee. Elena had spread the letters across the table like pieces of a grand puzzle. "Her name was Sarah," Elena said, her eyes bright with excitement. "She wasn't your grandmother, Julian. She was a nurse during the Blitz. And these letters, they aren't just love notes. They are a map of a secret life." Julian sat down, his hands trembling as he read a passage. "James, the sky is falling tonight, but when I close my eyes, I only see the way you look at the river. Meet me where the vines grow, even if the world ends tomorrow." "My grandfather's name was James," Julian whispered. "But he never mentioned of Sarah. He was a man of silence, of rigid routine. To think he had this fire in him." Chapter 3. The Ghost Hunt. The following days were a whirlwind of exploration. Julian and Elena became detectives of the soul. They traveled to the locations marked on the map: a bombed-out church garden in the city, a narrow alleyway in Soho, a bench in St. James's Park that still bore the scars of shrapnel. The zahvat, the thrill of the hunt, drew them closer. They found themselves walking through the city for hours, the line between the 1940s and the present blurring. Julian told her of his life in New York, his high-pressure job in finance, and the hollow feeling of success. Elena told him of her parents' antique shop in Florence and her obsession with saving what others threw away. One evening, they were huddled under a single umbrella near the South Bank. The city lights reflected in the puddles like spilled jewels. "I have to leave in 3 days," Julian said suddenly, his voice tight. "The flight is booked. The apartment is ready. But for the first time in my life, I feel like I am leaving the wrong place. He looked at Elena, his face inches from hers. The rain created a shimmering curtain around them. You've spent your life restoring old photos, Elena, but you've restored something in me too. You made me look at the world and see more than just numbers and deadlines. Elena felt a surge of warmth that had nothing to do with the coffee in her hand. The past is a teacher, Julian. It teaches us that moments are fragile. If you don't grab them, they become ghosts in a box. Chapter 4. The Secret of the Stone. The final letter in the box was different. It was dated May 1945, the end of the war in Europe. It was barely legible, stained with what looked like tears. James, they say the war is over, but my heart is still on the bridge. I've hidden the ring, the one you gave me, at our spot, beneath the third stone of the vine. If you ever find your way back from the front, find the ring. Find us. The third stone of the vine, Elena mused. The ring in the photo, the one with the intertwining vines. They rushed to Waterloo Bridge. The wind was howling, whipping Elena's hair across her face. They searched the base of the bridge, near an old Victorian lamppost decorated with iron carvings of ivy and grapes. Julian knelt in the mud, his expensive coat forgotten. He counted the stones. 1, 2, 3. He pried a loose brick from the embankment wall. Behind it lay a small, rusted tobacco tin. Inside, resting on a bed of rotted silk, was the silver ring. It was tarnished, but the craftsmanship was unmistakable. 2 vines forever entwined, symbolizing 2 lives that refused to be pulled apart. She waited for him, Julian said, his voice cracking, and he kept her letters. They never got their happily ever after in the way the world sees it, but they kept each other alive in the silence. Chapter 5. The New Map. The sun rose over London the next morning, a pale gold light breaking through the clouds. Julian stood in the doorway of Elena's shop, his suitcases packed and sitting in the back of a black cab. Elena felt a hollow ache in her chest. She had mended the box, she had found the ring, but she couldn't fix the distance between London and New York. I have to go, Julian said, his eyes searching hers one last time. I know, Elena replied, her voice a whisper. Safe travels, Julian. He turned to leave, but stopped. He looked at the silver ring in his hand, then back at the woman who had helped him find it. The Zahwat, the sudden, terrifying realization of what truly mattered, hit him like a physical blow. Wait, Julian said. He walked back to her, his movements decisive. He took her hand and placed the ring in her palm. I'm not going to be a ghost, Elena. I'm not going to spend my life wondering what if. He leaned out the door and shouted to the cab driver, Cancel it! I am staying! The driver grumbled and drove off, leaving Julian standing there in the morning light. You are staying? Elena asked, her heart racing. I have a lot of vacation time, Julian laughed, a sound of pure relief. And I think I know a place that needs a very unskilled apprentice who is quite good at finding old bridges. Plus, I want to see what happens when the rain stops and the sun actually comes out. Elena smiled, a radiant, genuine smile that lit up the dusty corners of her shop. She realized that while she had spent her life fixing the past, Julian was her future. They stood together in the doorway, the silver ring between them, watching the city wake up. The whispers of the rain were gone, replaced by the symphony of a new day. And for the first time in her life, Elena didn't need a photograph to capture the moment. She was living it.